And my next guest is known for many things. He's a fantastic actor, of course. He was gambling on Lord of the Rings. He's the king of the backflips. I'll get to that. And a wonderful advocate for grandparents raising grandkids. His name is Bruce Hopkins. He's a good man and he's with us now. Hello, Bruce.
Kia ora, Leah. Thank you so much for that warm introduction.
Oh, you know, Bruce, I'm a fan. Come on. Of course I had to do that.
I'm a fan of yours. Well done. What a magnificent effort you all did on that fundraiser you guys did for Kids Can. It's a charity that I have a regular monthly deposit goes to. It's something and it kind of aligns with grandparents raising grandchildren, really, because a lot of the kids in that situation where they're being raised by their grandparents come from not affluent homes.
Yeah. And thank you for that, Bruce, because you did come and donate your time. It was a 24-hour handball event. And I do believe Kids Can, I don't know the final tally, but it was close to $450,000, which is incredible.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. So you're so good with your time and with charities, but grandparents raising grandkids has been a passion for you, being a loving granddad yourself, and you've done a lot of things to raise money. How many grandies have you got, Bruce?
I have 4. Charlie, who is 16 years of age, Gracie, who is 10, and Fred, who is 7, and the latest is Claudia, who is about 16 months.
Oh, beautiful. And was I right in saying that grandparents raising grandchildren, do they support, was it about 6,000 families?
9,000.
9?
9,000 grandparent families raising 16,000 grandchildren.
Oh my
so
gosh.
Not all, many number of them have multiple grandchildren. It's because the scenarios are usually pretty rugged. Like we can't paint you can't wipe a brush across everyone there.
No.
They're not all seeking help because of wayward parenting and stuff through their children's, what their children are doing. But many of them, it is something to do like methamphetamine addictions, family violence. So it's rugged circumstances.
And
there's
Bruce,
16,000 children in those situations where the grandparents are being raised, where the grandparents are raising them.
And Bruce, I can imagine it must be, for a grandparent when they're at their, what do they call it, the sunset part of their life. They've brought up their kids and they may be in a position of owning their own home, but they may not. And then suddenly there they are back to raising, children again. And it must be really hard. And is it difficult to get financial support?
Yeah, it is. It can be really difficult because in order to qualify, essentially, they need to get guardianship of the child or children. And so what that, requires is that they go to court. They have to go, if not into court, but through the legal system to be granted guardianship. And often their own child, who is the parent of their grandchild, will not want to give that up.
Yeah.
So they have to battle. And often, as I say, because there are drugs like methamphetamine in particular, it's involved or whatever, then it's not as if it's an easy course. They're not going to give that. They're not going to walk away easily.
Yeah.
It's pretty full on.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that you stay, you don't just raise money, and you have done over the years, but you are also part of a group that you do meet quite regularly with a group of them. And what is that for, Bruce? Is it a moral support? What do you guys do?
Yeah, I don't actually meet regularly. I've been asked to meet with a group who gather in Central Auckland. They're not from Central Auckland. But there are about 6 or 7 of them who they'll meet once a month, and they'll just have a little bit of update on how everyone's going. And one of them will collect a food box from one of the food charities around, so they'll each get a food box on that day. And in fact, the meeting I went to just recently, one of the women she is raising her 7-year-old great-grandchild. So she's had to get guardianship from her grandchild of her great-grandchild. You know, it's so brutal. It's so brutal. Like, I stayed with a couple raising this 6-year-old child in Te Kuiti when I walked to Aotearoa. That's the first time I raised money for grandparents raising grandchildren, was when I decided I wanted to walk to Aotearoa, the Cape Reinga to Bluff. And I had an incident happen which meant I had to stay in Te Kuiti for 4 days. So I ended up getting a hold of grandparents raising grandchildren. They put me in touch with this wonderful couple down there. So I got to witness their lives. And it was, you know, it's drop off to school, make school lunches, pick up from school, weekends, what's happening in the weekends, because this is a child who needs to be stimulated and out there in their community. And these are grandparents who they want to rest. You know?
I know. I mean, how do they even have the energy? I mean, that is, you know, I got friends, Bruce, that, you know, had children late in life, and they're now late 40s, early 50s with a 7 and a 9-year-old, and they're both lamenting at how tired they are all the time. And imagine doing it in your 70s. Yeah. You know?
So what happens is grandparents raising grandchildren don't have money to give people. But here's the thing I could plead with anyone who's listening. I'm a pensioner, and I still have to work. I can't retire financially. So, and I don't own a house, unfortunately. I have owned houses, but I've missed the last 2 booms. But I'm very happy in my life. But we just got a pay rise, and we got a pay rise relatively recently before that as pensioners. And I would ask any pensioners out there who do not need those pay rises, I would ask you, please, if you know someone who's wealthy and is a pensioner and doesn't need the pension, and certainly doesn't need the pay rise they just got, how about you give that pay rise on a regular payment to grandparents raising grandchildren? What they do is they advocate on behalf of grandparents who are finding it hard to work their way through the legal system and through the government systems to qualify for support.
Right.
So they get turned down. Many grandparents get turned down because, no, you're family. And it's like, no, but we're not. We're not choosing to do this.
Yes.
The child cannot be handed over to a government agency. They still have family that love them and will raise them, but we need assistance. And so, grandparents raising grandchildren will help them navigate that course. That's one of the greatest things that they do. And what they've started doing now, which the money donations would be so good for, last year, for the first time, they were able to sponsor a 4-day camp for 45 of these children to give the grandparents a break, respite. They managed to sponsor a 4-day camp up at Campadere in the Hunua Ranges. And many of these kids would never have been on a camping trip before anyway.
That's fantastic.
So, you know, things like that can be a reality as long as there's money there that can support it. So if you can, I'd love to put a plea out there for people to donate to grandparents raising grandchildren.
So that's where the money goes, Bruce. It's not, they don't give the grandparents stacks of cash. It goes into things to help them. Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't got stacks of cash. I think.
Fair call.
I think I saw they made me an honorary life member after I walked to Aotearoa, after I hiked to Aotearoa, and so that's why I've done some ongoing fundraising, because I feel compelled to. A, I believe in the cause, and B, I feel like I owe, because it was such an honour to be given this honorary life membership. I do other voluntary things. I've been working with Mercy Hospice for 10 years, doing driving each week and things. But the grandparents raising grandchildren one is one that is just going to be ongoing with me. Throughout. And part of it's just the raising of the awareness, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely, because like I said, a lot of people may not realise how many grandparents are full-time raising their grandkids. Bruce, you and I could talk to you for hours. I mean, you are such a fascinating man and doing God's work. And I know you're super busy, so we've got to move on. But let's do it again in the future, Bruce. I always love to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Can I ask God one thing? Can you get your act together and do this stuff yourself?
It's out there. We've done it. Good on you, Brucey. Thank you, my love. I mean, there are, if you believe that angels are walking on earth, there's one right there.